Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Hey, any youngers, it's me, your host, Jen Glantz, back with another episode of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. This is the first podcast I've recorded in a while. A lot of the ones that I released over the last few weeks were podcasts I recorded in October, knowing that I was going to be away for pretty much the entire month of November. I'm finally back in Brooklyn, and it's so funny. I plugged in my podcast mic and I'm looking at it and there's so much dust all over it. It's crazy how you could leave your environment for just a month and the place sort of forgets you but goes on without you, meaning it still exists, your stuff is still your stuff. However, it grows dust, it grows dirt, and so much more. The very first thing I did when I got back to Brooklyn last Thursday was do a deep clean of the apartment. I am somebody who, when I get in the zone with cleaning, I cannot stop doing it until I feel like everything is perfect. So I got back home at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon and I cleaned until 9:30, which sounds like a lot, right? Especially because I live in a one-bedroom apartment that is less than 600 square feet. So it's like, how could you spend so long cleaning such a small apartment? But it's easy. You find different places that haven't been touched, that have just accumulated so much dust and debris. And especially living in New York City, I feel like you open the window for an hour or two and you just get so much dust coming through, so much dirt coming through. This is going to be my last podcast for the year, and I will be back next year. I'm not sure when. I'm definitely going to get a little bit more infrequent with the podcast, especially toward the beginning of the year. And that's just because I'm working on so many things. So if you want to make sure you get the most frequent stories, frequent tips, frequent everything, definitely make sure you subscribe to my Monday newsletter. It's mondaypickmeup.com, mondaypickmeup.com. I'm going to link it down below. It's absolutely free. It comes out every single Monday at 6 a.m. It's a lot of what this podcast is, just in written form and super short and sweet, a great way to start off your week. But if you have suggestions for the podcast, if you want to know what topics or you have suggestions of topics for next year, let me know. I feel sometimes like I don't know who's listening to this podcast. It's just me and the microphone. So I would love to know who you are, why you listen to the show, and what you might want from it in 2023. So send me an email, jenglantz@gmail.com, say hello, or come hang out on Instagram @jenglantz, and let me know what's going on, what you think, what's on your mind as we close out the year. One of the best things that I started doing, I think last year, was documenting all of the fun, cool wins of every single month as they happen. So I take a sheet of paper, I post it up on my wall. It has every single month on the paper. And underneath each month, I write down 3 to 5 of the best things that happened that month. That way, when I get to December and I look back at my year and feel like I have done nothing, I have proof that I have done things. And I'm looking at it right now because I'm trying to think of like a year recap. What did I do? What were some highlights? And without this list, it literally feels like this year was a blur and nothing happened. But I'm looking at this list and I'm like, wow, there were a lot of wins. Maybe none of them feel gigantic. None of them were huge bucket list goals. But it showed me that every single month, something happened in my life. If I could give you one piece of advice to start off next year, it's not to do a list of New Year's resolutions. It's not to make a list of goals. It's to promise yourself that you're just going to track what you do every single month. The last day of the month, I sit down with this tiny sheet of paper. I go through my calendar. I think through my thoughts and I write down the things that I'm proud of, the things that I did. Looking at this list right now, I have things like in January, I went ice skating, which is my favorite winter activity. In February, I did a solo night out where I went to my favorite restaurant and a Broadway show. In March, we traveled to this really cool beach town that we like and stayed over the weekend. In April, it was my birthday and I threw myself a magic birthday-themed birthday party. In May, we spent 2 weeks in Chicago. In June, we went to Boston. I also got to see one of my favorite comedians, super last minute. July, I got COVID, which is absolutely not a highlight, but it's something to remember that, hey, that ate up a lot of my July. In August, we went to, we had a July 4th party. We had all of our friends come over for a fun July 4th party. That was August. Okay, I think I skipped July, but that was July. In August, what do we do? I did a lot of press in August that I was proud of. I was on NBC, I was on Access Hollywood. In September, I finally got to go to Montana, which was a goal of mine for so long. In October, a big highlight was going to this pumpkin patch that we always go to every single year. It's like a tradition. In November, we spent a month out of Brooklyn in California and in Florida. And December, well, it's just begun, so I can't really give you a highlight yet. But having this list in front of me makes me go, wow, we actually did a lot this year that I didn't even think of. So rather than telling you to take this gigantic inventory of your life as you close out the year, instead, this year, all I'm going to tell you is to look back at every single month and document what you did. Document the things that you were proud of, the things that happened, the things that made you happy. And then next year, moving forward, do this every single month. That way, when you find yourself in a funk or you just feel like you did nothing with your life, you have proof that you did. As you close out 2022, I want to share a big thank you for listening to this podcast. I've been doing this for over 4 years, over 250 episodes. I love talking to you and I want to know more about you. So make sure you subscribe, mondaypickmeup.com. Send me an email, jenglantz@gmail.com. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're feeling. Let me know who is listening to this show. I'll be back in 2023. Until then, all my love, Jen Glantz. Hey you! Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.